Yeah, I'm gonna be talking a little bit about trauma, my experience with trauma, the difference of experiencing trauma and feeling it and projecting it, the relationship to the self, the no blame game, how we free ourselves and let go of certain things. Oh, when's your birthday? That's sad that I don't know that, but I'm not really the best with birthdays and things. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna speak about some of my traumas this time and different things like that, but I'm not going to be an advocate for speaking on traumas because we have to speak about these things and then let them go and move on with our lives, regardless of how much these things have affected us in the past. We gotta learn to move on. So this has been a very auspicious day, as some of my brothers will know. It's been a very auspicious day, and a lot of beautiful unfoldings have happened this day that I'm pretty excited to explore in this coming week, in this coming month. And yeah, so this conversation was birthed from me waking up at 5:30 in the morning, which is something I intend to do quite often, but don't necessarily find the will to get up out of bed, especially when I go to sleep. Usually no earlier than 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Really no earlier than 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. But today, or this morning, I found the will to wake up at 5:30 a.m. and do a Fortuna ritual. Shout out to Street Master Gano and the whole Galighticus movement, because that movement, Street Master, who's my master teacher, has assisted me a lot in coming into the power of my spiritual self and coming into contact with a lot of the divine faculties that I now work with, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the Galighticus for their work. Yeah, so this morning I woke up and I did my Fortuna ritual, and after that ritual I took some of those mangoes from my Fortuna altar, because Fortuna likes mangoes, and I offered them to my ancestor altar. So when you have a altar for the gods, a little bit about altars. Altars are communication boards to whatever you're trying to communicate with. We always start with our ancestor altar because, we always want to work with our ancestors first, and then start to work with the other divine faculties. And the divine faculties, such as the Neteru, the Vedas, the Orishas, they respect you a lot more, the Nordics, when you first work with your ancestors, because they're your first line of communication when it comes to the spirit realm, is your ancestors. And they're actually the ones that need the most assistance. Whereas gods, Neteru, Vedas, Orishas, they are gods, and they don't necessarily need our assistance more so than we are calling upon their divine grace. It's like if we were an ant, you know what I'm saying? If an ant, basically this is like we communicate with the gods. If an ant decided to start offering you, if an ant started to offer you, I don't know, little pieces of fruit at your doorstep and different things, you might have the desire to assist that ant in whatever it's asking for, right? So, not to say that we're ants, but to the gods, that's basically what it is. So the altars are just communication boards, and we start with our ancestor altar, and then we start to work with the gods to petition for divine energies and their assistance, because the gods are really real. They're more real than we realize. And I'll go into that a little bit, my experience with the gods. And I'm talking about the gods, not the creator of all there is, because there is one creator of all there is. And there are many gods that come forth from the creator of all there is to do the work of the creator of all there is. Okay. So yeah, I was at my ancestor altar and I offered them some mangoes and, spoke to them a bit, gave them some thanks, some words of power, some Reiki. And then I laid in my bed about 6:15 and I just felt the desire and the necessity to share my traumas. And if you read my story, if you haven't, definitely go read my story and you'll kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. But I've experienced sexual abuse from 2 males in my family, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I was a child, and I did not have the understanding at that age of what is right and what is wrong. And 11:11. And I believe because of that sexual abuse, I turned around and did something similar to a young girl when I was 12 and she was 8 years old. Okay. And I'm going to talk about that and how I was forgiven, because that haunted me for a while. And again, I was young and did not truly understand what I was doing, but was just repeating the cycle of what was done to me and doing it to someone else, which is not necessarily an excuse, but it's just what it was. Okay. So a lot of what we do in this community when it comes to that is just recycled trauma. And it's important that once we're adults that we own up to our trauma, recognize our trauma, the trauma that we've received and the trauma that we've given, and find a place to forgive ourselves and those who have traumatized us. I'm not saying forget, but once you reach the age of maturity and your consciousness has developed to the point where you have realization and awareness, peace Ashiket, it is up to you to decide to forgive the person that has caused you trauma in order for your soul to continue to develop in the right direction. Because what happens is when we receive trauma at a certain age, when something intense happens for us at a certain age, sometimes our consciousness gets stuck at that age. And we behave as adults as if we were whatever age that trauma occurred. And that's why you have people out there screaming like 2-year-olds or screaming like 3-year-olds, because they're still behaving as they were when they received that trauma. They didn't learn, their consciousness didn't learn to grow beyond that trauma. And another thing that happens, and this is for all the healers, it's really important for the healers to know this, that when trauma happens to you, or when we receive trauma, or when somebody receives trauma, the mind oftentimes, depending on how extreme that trauma was, locks that trauma into a box and stores it into the subconscious, because at the time the mind may not be able to deal with the actions of what is happening and needs to lock away the experience until a later time comes where it can release the experience for it to be healed. And I've experienced that with clients, whereas they had traumas that they were either unaware of or did not think about for a very long time. And as soon as they were on my table or sitting on my chair and receiving the Reiki energies, that box unlocked and their traumas came to the surface so they can heal. And when traumas come up for us, we can do either two things. It can be an opportunity to heal from it, or it can be an opportunity to dive deeper into the effects of traumas. Yes. And as Ray said, you can experience a full year of trauma being in a one moment when that box is unlocked. And it's important that when those traumas come up And they usually come up when the mind and the body feels it's okay to heal from them. They usually come up in those points. It's important that we find ways to heal those traumas, because oftentimes, especially if you're in a relationship with somebody and you have sexual trauma or trauma from the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever that may be, you take those traumas and you make them into insecurities, and insecurities turns into jealousy, anger, envy, frustration, all these type of things, and you actually project those traumas upon your partner, and that's unhealthy. It's one thing to feel insecurities, it's one thing to feel jealousy, it's one thing to experience your traumas, but it's another thing then to take that trauma, that insecurity, that jealousy, or whatever that may be, and then project that upon your partner, as if it was them that caused you the harm. That could be very harmful for yourself. It will perpetuate ultimately those issues and cause even further trauma. Whereas if you allow those things to come up, recognize them for what they are, and made a decision that you wanted to heal from them, instead of utilizing those things as a reason to attack your partner mentally, emotionally, or physically, then you will have the opportunity to heal. And I see this a lot in our community, whereas the man or the woman has traumas that they experience from past relationships or even family members, especially in the sexual realm, and they take those traumas and they project that upon their partner, through jealousy, envy, insecurities, whatever that may be, anger, frustration, and create an unhealthy relationship. So as adults, it's really that time as adults that we do the self-reflection and create the awareness in our mind that when these things arrive and occur within our consciousness, within our body, our emotions, and our mentality, that we take the time to heal that, to reflect on that, and really recognize these things for what they are. So my experience with trauma, I was able to get over a lot of the trauma I experienced as a child, being sexually abused by men, through my spiritual growth, through my spirituality, through my self-reflection. I was able to understand myself, understand what was happening, understand that it wasn't my fault that I experienced these things, and those people that inflicted these wrongs upon me, in a sense, were also had some traumas within themselves, and they were just perpetuating that cycle of trauma. So by reflecting within myself, by looking at myself and telling myself, it's not your fault, I forgive you, and I forgive those who have caused harm against me. I'm not running away from the fact that I've been sexualized as a child. I'm not running away from that fact. I'm owning up to the fact that this happened to me, and I'm saying it's okay because I'm a better man today. By doing that, it's freed me from the shame of being sexually abused. It's freed me from the guilt, the victimization that I may feel, that people might feel, to the point that I can talk about it and don't feel any type of way about it. And it doesn't affect my personal relationships with my partner. It doesn't affect my sexuality. A lot of times people are sexually abused when they're young, and it causes sexual confusion, and it causes them to be homosexual or bisexual, whatever that may be. And I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but a lot of times that is actually where that comes from. And because I've healed myself of such traumas, I do not experience the effects of those things today. So self-reflection, recognizing that it's okay, because you're a new person. If you look at yourself today and look at yourself 3 years from now, you literally have a new body. Or 3 years prior, you have a new body. We're constantly shedding layers of ourselves, skin cells and thoughts and patterns and different things. Ashe, brother. So you're a new person. So it's okay to know that you are a new person. With the 12-step program, they have those who are addicted continuously saying for the rest of their life that I'm an addict. And that is just not true. They missed the 13th step. You know, once you're over your addiction, you're over your addiction. You are a new person. If you decide as a new person to go back into your addiction, then that's a different story. But once you are over those past traumas, those past addictions, you are now a new person. And that's something that we have to recognize. We're always born anew, truthfully, every day. But because this lifetime is so linear and slow, it may seem that we're the same person, but we're always changing. We're always brand new. And every day is always a new day to start off anew. So when I was 12, I actually sexually abused a young lady that was staying with us. And I did it because I saw my brother do it, honestly. And I didn't understand the repercussions within my own soul, nor the repercussions it would cause on this young lady when she got older. Because it did affect her when she got older, when I used to hear about her. And for years, as I grew older and I started to understand sex and sexuality and trauma and the whole rape culture and different things like that, I started to understand what I did was wrong. And I had guilt for that situation for years. Truthfully, that affected me more than the trauma that was caused against me affected me. And I had guilt for years about that, and to the point that I started to come to terms with myself, within myself, but I wanted to still make amends with the young lady, but I never thought I would. I mean, she was in another country. I had no contact with her, this, that, and the third. So I didn't think that I would ever make amends with her. When I got the confirmation of Sekhmet, who is my divine mother, who is a goddess. She's a Neteru. She's a lion head goddess. For those who are in the Vedic tradition, she's related to Kali Ma. For those who are Orishas tradition, she's related to Oya. Sekhmet started to present herself in my life and in direct relation to some of the women that were in my life, and I believe she saw the work that I was doing on myself and the realizations I was coming to with myself. So she started to present herself to me in different ways via drum journeys, dreams, visions, whispering things in my ear, projecting her image upon my face. So the women that I was with, 3 different women, saw her image on my face, and they said, "You look like a female lion with a mane." Now, as you know, female lions don't have manes, but they were able to detect, or they were able to see that what they saw was a female with a mane. And so I began to understand, like, okay, this divine goddess is working with me. And through Galighticus, I received a super candle, which is different from a regular candle. Super candle are imbued or instilled with the power of whatever god, Neteru, Veda, Orisha, or Greek god, or whatever that may be, is associated with. So this one was particularly given to Ashe by Sekhmet. And I did the ritual that was associated with this super candle. And the thing about ritual, if you're claiming to be spiritual and you're not doing any type of ritual, then technically you're not spiritual at all, right? Because how can you be spiritual without ritual? It's literally within the word spiritual. It's spiritual, you know? So in order to be spiritual, you have to be performing some sort of ritual, because that is how you commune. Through rituals, how we commune with spirit. So I did this ritual for Sekhmet. And I asked her for her divine grace. Over the time, I asked her for forgiveness, and she answered a few nights later. Me and the Empress at the time went into ceremony, if you know what I mean. And that was a night of divine occurrences. A lot of divine occurrences. we were visited by many goddesses, including Sekhmet, Yemenya, Kuan Yin. Those were the three main goddesses that visit us. And I also believe Kali Ma visited us in the form of Sekhmet. And because of what I was doing with the goddess already, which is helping her heal from past wounds, helping her heal from sexual trauma, and different things that she had going on in her body, it gave me and her an opportunity to move forward and out of buddy ceremony. Move forward and out of the states that we were experiencing. So during the ceremony, there was a time where she was sitting in front of me. And it's funny because she had told me about this guy that had abused her. And she was sitting in front of me. And I actually felt myself become the abuser. And I groveled at her feet for forgiveness. And although I didn't abuse her in this lifetime, I got the opportunity to ask for forgiveness from the divine masculine, for the divine masculine from the divine feminine. And I was at her feet and she was sitting on the bed, and I groveled and I said, please forgive me for what I've done. And I could feel the energy of her abuser, and I could feel her abuse, and I could feel the energy of other abusers. And she got the opportunity to say, I forgive you. One way I was forgiven. And that was very powerful for both of us, because we truly experienced what it meant to not only forgive, but be forgiven. And the ceremony went on, and I prepared a bath for her. When you have a partner, or when you have somebody that you're working with, and that person is touched by the divine, like my current partner, and you see the divine goddess or the divine god or the divinity shining through that person, and you start to give that person your love, your appreciation, you start to shower that person with the love and appreciation that they deserve, you are actually showering the divine as they become a representative, as if they were a statue upon an altar that you give offerings to. They start to become a representative of the divine feminine or the divine masculine. And you have an opportunity to utilize your relationship with that person to give offerings to the divine. So I prepared a bath for her. I did a Yemenya ritual where we utilized certain things and drenched ourselves in cold water. And then I prepared a hot bath for her, which was the Sekhmet ritual. And what I put in the bath made the bath blood red. And she got to bathe in that bath on her own and cleanse. And I won't go into detail, but it was really some deep stuff that was being released and passing through. And during that time, Divine Mother manifested, Sekhmet manifested. And I got to see her in her full form and glory. And Kuan Yin manifested, and I begged literally for about an hour and a half for forgiveness. I begged for her to see me. I begged for her to recognize me. And I begged for forgiveness, not only for my wrongs in this lifetime, not only for the wrongs that I've caused in past lives, as man, woman, whatever that may be, but also for all the wrongs of the divine masculine in general. And after an hour or so, she finally forgave me. And then she gave me the message that I was to assist in bringing her daughters home. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, and I'm still starting to understand what that means. But when I'm starting to understand that as the son of Sekhmet, as a lion, I am a protector of the divine feminine. And it has caused me to withdraw a lot within myself and how I relate to females, because I am a man still. So I do have sexual desires and things like that. And I'm constantly having to check myself and recognizing that I was asked to bring the daughters home, not be intimate with all of them. And I've always had the desire to be around a lot of women or have multiple partners. And unknowingly to me, that desire ties in to the mission that I've been given, because I begged for forgiveness and was forgiven, to help heal the divine feminine. So that happened, and after that happened, something amazing happened. I believe 2 or 3 days later, my cousin hits me up and he says, "How you doing, cousin? Blah, 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 blah. Hey, I have the young lady here that I abused, and she wants to talk to you." 2 or 3 days later. And I said, whoa, I haven't heard from this girl in years. And 2 or 3 days later, after I was forgiven of my sins, I get a message from my cousin that says that he is with her and she wants to speak to me. Okay? This is how the divine works. Okay? So I got on the phone with her and I asked her how she was doing, and I immediately apologized. I said, "I want to apologize for what I did to you when we were younger. I did not know any better, and you did not deserve that. And you deserve more than to be treated like a sexual object." And she's a grown woman now. I mean, she had to be, what's the age difference? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So she had to be like 26 or something like that. And I said or 20, 24. I didn't know any better, and I'm asking for your forgiveness because I apologize. And she said, "Just like that?" And I said, "Just like that. I'm sorry." And she said, "It's okay. I forgive you. I understand." And, heart explosion. So when we forgive ourselves, when we ask for forgiveness from the divine, when we find that within ourselves to stop victimizing ourselves, we are given blessings and ashe from the divine that says, "Good work, good job. You've owned up to your ish and you've stepped up to the plate. Now you can continue to do the work that you are here to do, because we've all been sent by our divine parents to do the work here. But a good 90% of us will never meet our divine parents because we're too enraptured in the illusion of Babylon or Maya, right?" So that was my story of how I was forgiven, my story of my divine mother, and some of the things that have happened to me. So it's important that we heal our relationship to ourself, that we remove the blame. It's like no blame game, no shame. It's time to take responsibility for all the things that we've done and for the things that have been done against us. Yes, we have to take responsibility for the traumas that have been inflicted on us, because there's no one else that's going to do it for us. And as adults, we have to put ourselves, in order to gain our power back, we have to recognize the traumas for what they are, forgive ourselves, love ourselves, and then let them go. So again, I won't be talking about this many times because I think sometimes we get too focused on talking about our trauma over and over and over and over again. And, you talk about it, you share, and then you let go and you move on, is my opinion. So we have to free ourselves and let go, because, and one reason why I'm doing this is because I see where I'm going. Today, it was a lot of divine occurrences. When I woke up and I did that ritual and I decided to post that on Instagram, I put myself in an extreme place of vulnerability. And it wasn't as hard to be vulnerable as it was for people to see it and say, "Thank you for being vulnerable." That was actually harder to get the recognition of the fact that I was being vulnerable, because I realized that, oh wow, I'm being seen for being vulnerable, and it's okay. Okay? So I decided to do this because I see the direction that I'm moving in, and as a leader, as a community member, as a you know as somebody that's contributing to my society and my community, and I feel it's important that I have no secrets. I have no shame. There's nothing about my past that anybody can dig up that I have not shared. And that is important. Okay? Because in being a healer, it is important that you don't have things hidden, because you're dealing with other people's hidden secrets. And if you are hiding who you are, like, no offense, some of these preachers, priests, and pastors do. And we have to stop doing that, by the way. When our preachers, priests, and pastors go around sexually abusing our youth, and we don't take them off the pedestal and tell them to sit in the back of the church, then we're encouraging that behavior. So there shouldn't be any preacher, priest, or pastor that's up there preaching, and the community is knowing that he is lying about his sexuality, fronting about his sexuality, and also sexually abusing young boys and girls. That ain't right. We should not support that behavior. I'm not saying send him to the system. I'm saying we need to deal with that in-house, take him off the pedestal, keep a close eye on him, and let him know what he's doing is wrong, instead of keeping him up there as if he is right and turning a blind eye to what this person is doing. And I've seen that a lot in the church, and that goes to show you at what level the church sometimes deals at. You know what I'm saying? So there will come a time where there will be no secrets. I already feel it coming. I experience it with my partner all the time. Anytime I feel some type of way, she knows. Anytime she feels some type of way, I know. And we try to hide it. We try to front like, nah, I'm good. And then later on, we'd be like, oh, babe, I was really feeling some type of way. And even if we didn't know exactly what it was, we knew it was something. So as time moves forward and basically comes to collapse on itself, what is in here and what's in here is going to be more available for people to see. So you want to make sure you clear that out. Because if you are in the private doing things that you are afraid of the public seeing, and then all of a sudden all the veils come down and everybody can see what you got on underneath your veil, you're going to be ashamed. So might as well get that out of there now. And so, this sharing this was really important to me, because even one of my brothers this morning called, from my brotherhood, they called and said, hey man, I got something to share. And they shared their journey, which was directly related to some of the things that I'm experiencing now. It was directly related to what I'm talking about. So everything in due time, everything comes out in due time. And I know that this has been my mission for a very long time, but I've dragged my feet, just like a lot of us do. I dragged my feet when it came to stepping up to who I am and speaking in my truth. And I'm not dragging my feet no more. And today, in many different ways, the divine has answered the call. I literally received a call from a woman today that has been doing work with women, that has held all women's retreats. And we had a deep conversation to the point where I was sitting down in that corner over there on the phone, looking at my messy room, and I immediately felt deja vu. I said, whoa. I had to stop talking, because I was like, I was here before. I spoke about this before. I'm experiencing this again. I have to do something different. And that different is answering the call this time. Answering the call. And, I set up a meeting with her tomorrow, and we're going to talk about me facilitating the masculine part of her event, meaning me calling the men to step in to their truth for her event, because she's going to be working with the women, and she's asked me if I could work with the men in the same way. So I opened up that morning, and the brother hit me up and said blah, 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 told me about his journey, and it was right in unison with mine. And then the sister hit me up and was just like, let's do this work. So, and, another thing is, after I did the ancestral work, when I went to sleep, I was around my ancestral grandmothers, and I've never experienced that before. And I remember walking with them, and I remember two of them, they were my aunts, but I call them grandmothers, Ediths. Two of them were my aunts who passed away from each lineage, one of each lineage, and they were the eldest aunts and the closest aunts to me of one of each lineage. And I remember looking at them and just smiling and just started crying in joy because I saw my ancestors walk with me, specifically the grandmothers. And when I got on the phone with this young lady, she had to pull over because she was driving because she started to get visions and she started to see a grandmother spirit with me. And the funny thing is, I've always had this divine feminine grandmother spirit with me. So much that the women that I date get confused of my sexuality. They're like, you're so masculine, but you have all this feminine energy. And today I understood that it's not my energy, it's actually the energy of the divine mother around me. And I recognized that energy during my first ayahuasca experience in 2012 or 2011 was my first ayahuasca experience, and the shaman said, you have a grandmother with you, and she's working with you. And from then on, I knew that spirit was with me, and the young lady confirmed today when she said, I see this grandmother spirit. I never told her that. And she said, I see this grandmother spirit with you, and they're working with you, and they're asking you to allow their work to be done through you, to become receptive, and to not block what is to come through in the coming months. So I say Ashe to the Divine Mother for continuing to push me. Because even my last shamanic drum journey, I fought with doing that. Like, I dragged my feet about doing that, and my elder, Queen, she was like, she hit me up 4 or 5 times. Like, you got to do this journey. Are you going to do this journey? Or are you going to do a ceremony? Are you going to do the ceremony? And again, that's the divine feminine calling me to do this work, calling me to step out of my own way and do this work, step out of my ego. Because the ego, this is a funny thing about the ego. The ego will tell you, oh, you're a man. Who do you think you are trying to work with women, this, that, and the third? You're a masochist or whatever that may be. The ego will actually tell you that. And the ego will pull you, the negative ego, by the way, the negative ego, because the ego is not a bad thing, can stop you from stepping up to your full power and make you think that stepping into your full power is your ego, is your negative ego, when in fact it's your positive ego that allows you to move forward with who you are in the face of opposition. So that's basically what I had to share with you today, and I thank everybody that tapped in and dropped in. And I'll just say for this last thing is, be ready to let go of this trauma. Be ready to face yourself in that mirror that the universe is going to project to you. Watch, especially after watching this. Be ready to face yourself like I face myself, with bravery and courage, because the universe is going to put those things in your face that reflect your traumas. And it's not to beat you up, but it's to say, here, heal from this so you can move on and enjoy your life and do the work that you come here to do. Be ready to face that and own up to it, to what you've done, and let go of what was done to you in full courage, joy, beauty, honor, and ask for the help. Build that ancestor altar. Build those altars to the gods so you can get the divine Eka'u, the divine Ashe from the gods and the ancestors. So it'll be a lot easier for you to face yourself because you're being given divine energies. Get as much divine energies as you can in this lifetime. All right? So, on the 29th, we will be doing a shamanic drum journey. Check my page. There's a flyer on my page. And for this drum journey, my beloved L11 Akira will be leading the guided meditation. We'll be at our elders' home. It's a vegan potluck. Now, our elders are not necessarily vegans, so they might be a little fish there or something like that. But nonetheless, we're going to say vegan potluck, so we bring good, healthy food, and we actually pave the way for our elders to eat a little bit healthy, because our elders are very wise, but as the new generation. So the elders are here to teach us wisdom, and the youth are here to teach the elders knowledge. The elders had the wisdom from experience. We had the knowledge from being young and being hip to the game that is happening now. So 29th, check my page, Shamanic Drum Journey 5 to 8. Vegan potluck. This is a leave no trace event. Okay, so please bring your own spoon, fork, plate, bowl, whatever that may be, because we want to make sure that we have low impact. We want to create low impact on the Great Mother. And if you're going to bring any of those things, the stuff we have is going to be compostable, and we're going to have a compost bin there. Because when you start to step into your divinity and your divine self, you start to do things that are recycled. You know what I'm saying? You start to offer things to the gods and recycle these things, offer it to nature, and you become less wasteful. You know what I'm saying? So we'll be doing that on the 29th. Check my page. We're going to be creating an event for the releasing of trauma and the experiencing of joy. It's going to be maybe one Friday a month, or every other Friday. We're still creating that. And I will give you guys more info on this event that I'll be collaborating with, calling the Divine Masculine, and fellas, calling you in to commune and share on May 5th. I'll give you guys more info on that after tomorrow, after our meeting. So with that done and said, this is Mr. Love Yourself and Be Kind, telling you you are the love of the divine. Love yourself and be kind. Ashe.